let's talk about the new film.
Sure.
Oscar winner Alex Gibney. Isn't that nice? You'll always have that before your name.
It's good. They can't take that away.
That's right. This really served Marissa Tomei. So I think,
right.
I think you're set. Let's talk about Gonzo, because Hunter S. Thompson was clearly somebody who was biased in almost every subject he approached. And we are taught that impartiality is sort of the cornerstone of responsible journalism.
Right.
Are we wrong?
Yeah, I think we're wrong to believe that everybody has to go there, because if everybody is impartial, that ends up acting, it means everybody ultimately acts as kind of megaphones for the rich and the powerful. Sometimes you have to be angled on something. Sometimes you have to be willing to wave a red flag and say, you know what, this person is lying.
But aren't people like Bill O'Reilly sort of a result of Hunter S. Thompson?
Yeah, they are. I mean, and I think that's where Hunter Thompson goes too far. I think if everybody's Hunter Thompson, you have a kind of blogosphere where everybody's just bloviating. But the best people at this stuff are the people who give viewers or readers a guide or some inkling about how they can see this stuff. I mean, Hunter would say about his reporting on the campaign trail, you know when he's reporting and when he's editorializing. So that seems to be perfectly fair.
But he had people actually believing that Muskie was on drugs.
He did. And I think, I mean, some people believed it, but those are the people who weren't reading that carefully. If you read it, you know, again, we now know that Muskie really wasn't on Ibogaine, but I read those passages, and I don't think I would have thought at the time that Ed Muskie was really eating Ibogaine. There are a few people who may have thought that, but you can't worry about everybody all the time.
A lot of people believe Judith Miller.
Yeah, that's different.
That is different?
Yeah, because Judith Miller, Ibogaine was a playful game. Right. It was a playful fantasy, because he was trying to make an observation about Ed Muskie, which is that he was a stone-faced character who was prone to sort of wild, hysterical fits, right? Well, that's different than Judith Miller being given false information from somebody in the administration, not properly checking that information, and then reporting it as fact and leading us into a war. So, you know, if Judith Miller had said, oh, by the way, I had a hallucination last night that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, okay, fine. Then she's on the same, playing in the same territory that Hunter's playing in.
I think more people would read the Times more closely.
I think so. They may do.
I like that. What happened to Hunter? Because, I mean, you address him becoming a caricature to some extent, but why did that happen to him?
I think what happened to him over time were a few things. Number one, first of all, he was a...
Wow. I'm going to have another sip. I'm sorry.
That's the cue. That's always the cue. No, Alex, don't go there. You might want to try a different tack. Always appreciate those musical cues because they help keep me on the straight and narrow. Tell interesting story now.
It was always at night, like a werewolf, that I would take the thing out for an honest run down the coast. The edge. There is no honest way to explain it, because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over.
He was a reporter with a wild imagination.
He was not afraid to express himself in sometimes shocking ways.
I'm not at all embarrassed at the use of the word freak.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. It starts off like a rocket. That was mad genius.
Ralph, when he first met Hunter, he'd never done any drugs. He loses it.
Hunter always had to have a running crisis.
Come over, I'm gonna kill somebody.
I think he captured certain truths about human perversity. I don't think that anybody can be surprised that we find ourselves in the nightmare we're in today because it's the same as the nightmare he described back then.
He could wield a pretty effective sword against what's going on right now.
He had this purity of vision.
Will the real Hunter Thompson please stand up?
In the spirit of Hunter, did you ever think about getting really fucked up during the shooting?
Of Hunter?
Yeah.
I did.
You did?
Yeah. I still am.
Seriously? Did you ever direct a day while you were not in full control of your faculties?
While I was in some altered state?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Sure.
And what were the substances?
I'm not going to divulge that to you.
Oh, come on.
No.
You have to. Really?
No, why do I have to?
because I asked.
That's not a good enough reason.
I didn't think so, but I gave it a shot anyway.
Right.
But really?
Yeah, sure.
Did the crew know?
Probably.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't expect that to be a yes answer, so I'm not.
Well, it's a buy the ticket, take the ride.
Wow. Is your head going to turn into a lizard any second now?
Any second.
Let
me know if you see it turning into a lizard, then I know where you've been.
Exactly. And let me have another drink of a little sip of the rose drop. Why now? This doc seems very different than Taxi and Enron.
Yeah.
In that normally you take on things that start with a personal story and then sort of build out from there, but this seems a little more direct. Why Gonzo?
You know, this is a guy, you see some real fissures in the political arena between these wildly disparate visions of America, red states, blue states, you know, and Hunter, I think, understood the kind of central contradictions of the American character. On the one hand, this great sense of idealism and purpose and higher ideals, and on the other hand, this inchoate sense of fear and loathing is what he called it, this anger, this deep-seated anger and resentment toward things that people don't quite really understand. And Nixon tapped into that, and so did George Bush. And so that gave Hunter's story a real contemporary resonance. Around all of that, you know, the Hunter story is also the story of a writer, the story of an artist, how a writer and an artist finds his voice. And that seemed to me pretty interesting.
Do you remember when you first read Hunter's work?
Yeah, it was in college, and I think Vegas was something that was a revelation, because here was somebody who was writing about what it was like to be on drugs, and that's not an easy thing to describe, because he didn't do it in that kind of phony Timothy Leary way, which attempts to make it something ethereal. I mean, it was a sort of teeth-grinding, wild phantasmagoria. You know, it was party time, but party time in the tales of the Brothers Grimm.
Boy, if that doesn't encourage kids to take drugs, I don't know what will.
Right.